Thank you guys. This is a very exciting moment. And you know, we have to make the most noise for the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Kane Hodder. Welcome back.
We are back in Hotlanta, as I call it. No, I don't. Good to be back here. Thank you guys for coming in. Talk about a little bit about what I've been doing recently. You already know about the Chainsaw video game, I think, anyway. Same company as the Friday game. We've been working on it for 2 years now. And I think the Friday game is absolutely amazing, so well done. And the Chainsaw game is going to be even better. How technology advances with that kind of stuff, and 3 years ago the Friday game came out or something like that. And it's just going to be amazing. We have so many people. The Friday game was me doing the mocap for Jason. You talking? Am I interrupting you? Or?
He was just asking about the game. He didn't know. I didn't know you were talking about.
I'm just playing.
What is he talking about?
In the Friday game, it was just me doing the Jason stuff and a bunch of stunt people as victims. The Chainsaw game, we're using actors from different movies and stuff, like Scout Taylor Compton has been doing some mocap with us, Christina Klebe, Sean Whalen. So it kind of gives it a better feeling, I think, that it's actors that have done horror stuff and not just stunt people who we get violent to. But I'm not sure when the game will be released, but keep an eye out for it because it's amazing. And that's what I've been doing mainly lately. Haven't done a film since The Activated Man with Tony Todd. He's a good buddy of mine, and it was fun to work with him again. But not sure when that comes out either, but keep an eye out for it. Just trying to not have any more heart attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys know that, I'm sure, but had a heart attack a little over a year ago, and I wouldn't recommend it. If you're thinking about having one, don't. Not worth it. You get sympathy, but it fucks you
0
up.
stars would not recommend, right?
So that's what I've been doing lately, so.
So Kane, I want to ask you, you're a horror legend for us all, of course, right? Were you a horror fan before you got involved in the genre?
For sure.
Yeah?
I mean, I've always loved horror and true crime, fascinated by that kind of stuff. And I've followed not followed, that sounds like I enjoy them, but I know all the stories of the famous serial killers, and played a couple of them myself, BTK, Ed Gein. But the one that's always fascinated me the most is Gacy. And I have a photograph given to me by a woman whose family I've known for years. They live in Chicago. And she gave me a shitty black and white photograph. And I was looking at it, she goes, "Look at this." And I was looking at it and I thought, that looks like Pogo, which is Gacy's clown persona that he used to do at kids' parties and stuff. And she was in the picture with Pogo. To me, that's absolutely amazing. She's probably 8 years old or something. And she gave me the picture, which is, I think, a very cool thing to own. But, you know, I was always a horror fan. My all-time favorite movie still, you already know this, I think, but is The Exorcist. And 1974, I believe, when it came out. What? 3, was it? 3?
Turns 50
Late
this year.
in the year then, at least? or
Yeah,
something?
came out Christmas.
Oh, Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
What a great Christmas movie, huh?
That and Scream.
And I was excited the first time I met Linda because I loved the movie so much. And there are very few movies, in my opinion, that are still good and still hold up that many years later. So many of the other ones are such a joke. You can tell by the hairstyles and wardrobe and storylines and stuff. But that one still is good. And I've just been hearing about they're getting ready to make a remake. And I'm excited. I want to be in that thing somehow. Father Karras, maybe?
You know, you're not only an incredibly talented stuntman, but you're also a very talented actor as well. So I think you could.
It would be a great challenge. I would absolutely love some kind of character in that movie. But, you know, you already know all this too, but I didn't go into the film business to try and become famous. I wanted to be a working stunt person, and if I could make a living doing the shit that I used to do for free to entertain my friends, then I would have been happy. And my stunt career was going great, and then in stepped John Beekler. And I had done Prison with John the year before, in '87, did stunt coordinated, and Beekler said, "Have you ever done any full prosthetic makeup?" And I really hadn't, but something reminded me just a couple weeks ago. I was looking at something and it reminded me that I actually did a version of a makeup before Prison. And I always say that Prison was my first makeup. It was my first prosthetic makeup where it's glued on and everything, 3.5 hours. But the very first thing I ever did as a character, and I guess it would be considered makeup, was an episode of the Twilight Zone, the remake. And I did an episode, you can find it on YouTube and stuff, but it's called Grandma. And the whole episode is about a young boy who's terrified to be at home alone with his bedridden grandmother because he sees her as kind of a demon or something, so he's terrified. I was Grandma. And I was in a bed that was obviously modified, and there was a big head, a big face of her, hideous looking thing, and I was underneath it, inside the bed. They had to modify the whole thing. And I was underneath this face, and there was a couple times where the scene was, they wanted Grandma to do that, to look. And it's not makeup, so it wasn't my eyes, but it was eyes that could move, and on the cue, you'd see Grandma go, and it was terrifying to the kid. It was a cool storyline. And the way I moved the eyes was with my tongue. I was underneath this thing, it's just like a shell, and in order to, they had a tongue cup where I could move my tongue and the eyes would look to the side. You know, that's 1986, so that makeup was not, as refined as it is now, but I got to remember that that was technically my first makeup.
What's been the most challenging makeup you've had to wear?
Oh, that's easy. None of them were comfortable, obviously, because you have all this shit glued on you, and you're doing stunts, and you have lenses, you have dentures. You can't do shit. You can't drink, nothing. So, but, and the makeup effects people hate when I tell this story, but it's a K&B of makeup that I wore. And it was so incredibly uncomfortable. Jason Goes to Hell. And, I've had full body makeups, prosthetics like that was, but I've never been so incredibly hot in that kind of makeup. It's like I said, it's never easy, but that one was so hard to work in. And it was, the body was kind of thick, so I didn't have a lot of movement. Full prosthetics head to toe. And after a couple days of shooting, I felt like I was gonna pass out from being so overheated. So we ended up devising a cool suit, which is a vest with plastic tubing running through it, and they would circulate ice water through the tubing just to keep my body temperature down. But man, when I talk about how uncomfortable it was, Nicotero was like, "You're talking shit about my work." Just
It
being
looked
honest.
great, it was just uncomfortable.
Very, and the way it was designed, the previous 3 Friday movies I did, in between shots, I could take the hockey mask off. Now, part 7 was still makeup underneath every day, even though the mask was on most of the film. But part 8 was pretty easy because my face was open, because you never saw the mask come off, really, except for the boombox scene. But so that, I could eat, I could drink, no dentures, nothing like that. But man, the Jason Goes to Hell one was, I could not take the mask off ever. Once it was put on in the morning, it stayed there because it was built into the cowl, the headpiece that I wore. So it was really a pain in the ass to remove it. So I would be able to take it off for lunch, and that was it, and then put it right back on. But definitely the hardest one.
How did they create the makeup effect for part 7 in your back area, your exposed back? I've always loved that.
The
look.
spine and stuff, yeah.
How was that created?
I don't know, Beekler just built it. He had a mold of my entire body and just built the whole suit on that mold so that we knew it would fit perfectly. And I don't know, it was just his idea of what Jason should look like. It's still my favorite Friday I've done, but
Fucking genius, Beekler.
oh, he was, man, I miss him.
Yeah.
We did so many films together. Dark Wolf, I think he did the makeup on that. God, I have played some horrific characters. Wow, I'm going to hell. Obviously, he just whispered it, and I agree with you.
Let us not forget, he did some of Hatchet as well, and he was in it too.
He was,
Yes.
Now, I'm going to brag for a minute, if it's not insensitive. I don't think there's another actor, particularly in horror, that has killed on film so many actors that are known for other characters. I've killed Freddy, first Hatchet, Candyman, Michael Myers, Tyler Mane, Jason, Derek. There's somebody else too. Another Leatherface, R.A. So I feel very fortunate that I've been able to kill all these motherfuckers that think they're the shit. He just whispered that Freddy's a bitch, and I agree.
He's like, I am the king.
So I found a T-shirt in my garage. I was reorganizing my entire garage with cabinets full of memorabilia and shit. And I came up with my Meshuggah makeup. If you know what that character is from Chillerama, I was a Jewish Frankenstein. Came across that makeup and a couple of other very cool things that I didn't even remember having. So, you know, I like collecting that stuff. I wish I had saved more from the early Friday movies. You know, because those props and stuff would be so valuable, I think.
On our podcast, one of our segments is always prop we would like to own. A lot of times my co-host usually picks the guts. Like for Hatchet, she just wants the bucket of guts. She wants John Carl Binkler's guts to be specific.
Wow.
It's true.
She's fucking weird.
Love her. And I love doll movies, so I normally pick some sort of doll. But if for one of your movies, prop you would like to own that you don't own, you know, what would it be?
Oh, and again, reorganizing my garage, I came across 3 screen-used hatchets.
Shut up.
I know, I didn't even remember having them. But, yeah, so they were all, 2 of them are more practical, not wood and steel, but more rigid, and then there's a foam one for, you know.
So the other 2 are more heavy and
Right.
some weight.
I mean,
Like, what do you like? Damn, I wish I owned that.
well, that's a question I've never been asked. That's good.
It's a segment every week on the show, and we find ways.
What were people's answers? Like,
Well, we're asking each other, and it's movie specific, you know. So, like for Hatchet, she picked the bucket of the guts, and I can't remember what I picked. I
Right.
probably picked something boring like the Hatchet or something.
boring?
Compared to the bucket of guts. It was pretty. Actually, I do think I picked. I think I picked Patricia's head cast.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to display that on my shelf, right next to my Jason bust and my Chucky doll.
I always purposely, in all the Friday movies, I purposely would use one hockey mask the entire film. And I would take it back to my hotel or wherever I was every night, so I knew it was the same one. Because people tend to, you know, replace something and keep the valuable one, but, so all of Jason Goes to Hell was a little different because...
It wasn't just a mask, as you said.
Well, it was a mask, but there was damage done progressively through the film, so there was a different mask, like 3 different times, I think. But 7, 8, and Jason X, one mask I wore the entire film, and I kept those. So that's, you know, I'm glad I was aware enough to think about that, because, you know, I see people all the time that say they have a screen-used mask from CJ or something, and, you know, I think it would have been better if he just used one. He is my favorite Jason performer, other than myself. But I think he did a good job. He's a good buddy of mine now, and he appreciates everything that has happened because of playing the character, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You are a fantastic actor. Is there a specific type of role that you would just, besides being Father Karras, that you would just love to tackle that you haven't got to yet?
Another good question.
But you know.
I mean, Michael. Yeah. I would love to just round out my career playing Michael Myers in a Halloween film. I don't know if they're going to do any more ever, and it's now Courtney that has taken over the role, but that would be a dream situation, considering I did a shot as Freddy, the Jason stuff, Stunt double RA as Leatherface, did quite a few scenes, so that would just round it out with Victor, but I think that's pretty unlikely.
I am a big Jason Goes to Hell fan myself, as well as Part 8 fan. I was talking to them earlier, probably because I was kind of a more appropriate age to see it when it was new-ish, as opposed to seeing them 10 years old, like when they've been out on video for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So I was 10, 9, you know, so I saw them fairly new, so I have
Pretty impressive.
I have that memory of being able to see it when it was like new and it's like magical, as opposed to playing catch up, right? So I love 8, and I love Jason Goes to Hell. And another thing I just really love about Jason Goes to Hell is the late, great Leslie Jordan. Do you have any memories working with him? I know you probably didn't get to work with him that often, but...
I didn't, but he was such a pleasure to work with, and I think he was really talented actor, and I feel fortunate when I work with people like that, because two stories, and I apologize, you probably heard them already, but I was never trained in acting, ever. And because I never expected to do dialogue. I just wanted to fall off of shit and get hit by cars. And once I started playing characters that had dialogue, I started really loving it because, again, I never expected it, so it was very cool to do something new. And I always say that if I have any talent with acting and dialogue and stuff, it's because of all the years of doing stunts and watching quality actors work. And the one case I always bring up is I did a movie called Monster with Charlize Theron. She won an Oscar for that portrayal. And as a stunt coordinator, you're not involved in every shot in the film. So you often sit around, you know, working on other stuff or planning things, but you don't have to, like every other job on a movie set, you're working every shot. So you never have any free time. So I started watching actors like her, and because I had the luxury of just observing for an hour, I would watch what she did to prepare for scenes. And I was fascinated the way people do that. And I think I learned so much from her in particular, but a lot of other actors too. And I think I absorbed some of that stuff. And we shot Monster in Fort Lauderdale, I believe. And we're at a bar, a biker bar, shooting the scenes where I played the cop, undercover cop that arrested her toward the end of the film. And we were shooting in this biker bar, and then I heard somebody say, "This is where it really happened." And I was like, wait, what? This is where Eileen Wuornos was arrested, in this exact biker bar. And we're shooting the scene where I'm trying to get her outside so that we don't cause a big shit storm of, you know, people getting pissed off. What is this? Well, you know. So I was talking to the owner of the place, and I said, how long have you owned this place? He goes, since she was arrested. And I was like, wait a minute, you owned this bar when Eileen Wuornos was arrested. And I said, what we're shooting, is it anything like what really happened? And he goes, it was exactly what happened. Two undercover cops looking like bikers, and they got her out of the bar so that we could arrest her, or they could arrest her without a big, problem. So I attribute, if I'm talented at all with dialogue, it's because of stuff like that. And what was my other story now? Took too fucking long with that one.
Acting, the roles you want to tackle. No.
Leslie Jordan.
Leslie Jordan. That was it. Working with Leslie.
I'll think of it.
Well, I have a similar experience in my acting journey. Back, I started doing musical theater with all these professionals in this professional theater in Bakersfield, California, and I'm like this kid, teenager, and with these amazing performers, equity actors, and they just all took me under their wing and taught me stuff. I knew how to dance, but they really were teaching me blocking and everything. And fun fact, Leslie actually worked at that exact theater in the early 80s. And I didn't know that until he passed and someone posted it in the group.
Is that right?
That's right, I'll show you the picture later. It is, and I was like, I was standing on the same stage as Leslie Jordan in Bakersfield, California. But still, and I learned everything I learned by sitting back and observing it. I just sit in on rehearsals that I wasn't a part of and just watched because I wanted to know how they were so great.
Right.
So very similar. Different medium, but very, very similar.
I almost think it's more beneficial to learn that way than having someone instruct you how to act.
Yeah.
Which is still better than nothing, but I just think it was so much better for me,
That's great. We did vaudeville shows, all sorts of shows, like musicals, vaudeville. So it was the best time of my life, man.
Wow.
And I'm still friends with a lot of those people today. This was late 90s, and I'm still friends with some of those people today. One of them sang at my wedding, One has been on the podcast multiple times.
Right.
So, these people are still very much a part of my life, but very influential in my journey as an actor back then, too. So, very, very important to just find the people you admire and just watch.
Yep.
Just watch and learn that way. Okay, audience questions. Raise those hands. You.
You were talking about the Friday the 13th video game earlier. Is there a character that you like to play more?
More than
Is there do you have a preference of character you like to play as in the game?
I try to make it a little generic so it doesn't look specific to any one performance, but I'll always be partial to 7.
Yeah.
And I do some subtle things within the game stuff that is reminiscent of what I did in Part 7. Just for really knowledgeable fans, they pick up on it. Wait a minute, you did that exact move in Part 7 before you slammed the girl against a tree, something like that. And
We're just a bunch of freaks over here. We notice those little tiny details. How you stand, how you breathe. So it's great. We love it. Other questions? Yes.
Just wanted to say, my friend who's driving in tonight from Louisiana to be here tomorrow, she is cosplaying as Pogo the Clown. So we're going to have to come by your booth tomorrow.
I gotta take a picture with
Yeah,
it.
she looks amazing.
Wow.
But I may have missed you guys talking about this. It's a couple minutes late, but you're in a movie coming out soon with goat in the title, and you play some sort of goat theme thing. Did I miss that whole deal?
Goat face. I know. It's very
I'm
applicable.
interested.
I know. I heard you.
Can you tell us anything about the role without spoiling anything, or your preparation for it, or anything like that? I'm very curious about it.
Yeah, it's being talked about everywhere on all the sites, but I think we did the movie like 5 years ago. That's why I don't remember much of it. It was with friends, and it is an odd character, but hopefully they don't get pissed off, but I can't remember much about it.
Lots happened in 5 years, though.
Yes.
Was it a casualty of COVID?
No.
Partly?
Well, you know what?
Did that
Actually,
hinder a lot of its development?
I'm not sure. Yeah, possibly. And I thought of the other story, Silent Bob.
I'm stoked about Ghostface, but go ahead.
Goatface. What a lovely name for a character, huh? I mean, I guess it's better than goat ass. A little bit. So, Jason Goes to Hell. Because the version of Jason that I played was not in the movie all that much. Because the evil, whatever, goes into other characters. And I thought, and maybe it was ignorant on my part, but before we started shooting, knowing that other people were technically going to be Jason, I talked to some of the other actors and thought, wouldn't it be cool to see your version of Jason, even though it doesn't look like Jason, but they have the evil within them. And I thought, I think I talked to 4 different actors saying, wouldn't it be interesting for the audience to be watching you, technically as Jason, but you do something reminiscent of my performance. Like one of them does a little breathing thing or the head turn or something. I thought it would be interesting as a viewer to say, oh, that's not Jason, but it still feels like it. And without fail, all 4 of these actors said, my Jason wouldn't do that. You're Jason, huh? So none of them were interested in that, and I think it was a missed opportunity. I don't know, just something subtle. Doesn't have to be blatant or anything, but just something that the audience would say, ooh, that is familiar. So.
We all know, we all love your specific Jason's body mannerisms. Because with the mask on, you have to find other ways to act, but not be too exaggerated, not be a clown, right?
Right, and I think a lot of people tend to do that.
It can happen.
You don't have facial expressions or your voice.
Mhm.
So how do you, make it look scary and interesting and stuff? So that's, right, overacting so often. And I just thought, I came up with the breathing and the head turn and all that stuff, which I think worked. And it was, something that you hadn't really seen before. No really character things within that character. So, yeah.
Other questions? Yes.
I thought you were great in Holliston, by the way. I love Holliston.
Same.
So,
Holliston, yeah.
so what's it like working with that whole cast and crew and Adam Green?
Amazing. And, if there's anyone that ever comes close to the pleasure I got working with John Beekler, it's Adam Green.
Awesome.
And he's so talented, and he put me back on the map again. The Friday movies are pretty old now, but now I have another character that is more current, and I just feel very fortunate that you play one notable horror franchise, fantastic. But when you get to do it again, and with Jason, I felt like I had to consider previous performances when I was developing how I wanted to do it. Victor, all me.
Nice.
And, of course, input from Adam, because nobody knows the character as well as he does, but the free rein he gave me to come up with stuff was just such a pleasure, and I'm hoping we do just one more.
I was going to say, can we expect anything else from
Nothing I've heard yet,
you
but
and Adam? Okay.
yeah,
Nothing? Okay.
no. But Holliston was fun. I
It
mean,
was great.
anytime you play yourself.
When Danielle was there too.
Oh, yeah.
Hilarious. You played off each other.
Yes, exactly. We've known each other for so long,
That's
and
great.
we do stuff socially and everything. She's one of my best friends in the business, so it was fun doing that. I wouldn't mind doing a little bit more of that. Just with more current subject matter. That would be cool.
Episode season 3 for Hollis would be great. Love it.
Yep.
Do it. Way over there in the corner. Yes.
Hey. I was wondering if you could rank from least favorite to favorite your 4 Jasons
Oh, easily.
and your 4 Hatchets.
Oh, hatchets too. So, first hatchet is my favorite just because it was, brand new. Then I would say probably 2, and then Victor Crowley, and then 3. I loved all of them, but there's certain things about like Victor Crowley. How fucked up is Adam Green to write a scene where a character, Felissa Rose, tries to call for help on her cell phone? That's in my swamp, and I don't care for that. I think probably most of you know, but I rip her arm off and jam it up her vagina with such force that it comes out of her mouth, still holding the phone. And when I first watched the movie, I didn't expect to hear 911, what's your emergency? But yeah, when you come up with kills like that, I mean, that's iconic. Friday movies, Part 7, my favorite. Part 8, second. Jason X, third. And then Jason Goes to Hell. And nothing wrong with Jason Goes to Hell, but I just wanted to be in it more. Even though, here's a little trivia. If someone can yell, not yell really loud, but first person to tell me what my line was
Jason, listen.
in Jason Goes to Hell, as the other, what?
He ain't nothing but a pussy.
That was dramatic. So come to the table, I'm gonna give you a freebie because you knew that. I know a lot of people knew it, but he said it first, so fuck y'all. Yeah, so, and another Adam Green movie I did was Frozen, if you've seen that. And I now live not far from that ski resort. I was in LA for 45 years, and my wife and I decided to sell the house. We were in Calabasas. We had that house for 25 years because we built a house in Utah for just a second home to get away from the heat and stuff in the summertime. And the more time we spent there, we did it 3 years ago, the more time we spent there, the more we liked it. So we sold Calabasas, and we're in Utah full time now. I never thought I would be in Utah as a resident. Nothing wrong with it, but it just, there's some weird laws in Utah, like regarding alcohol.
Yeah.
You cannot, at any restaurant or bar in the state of Utah, order a double.
What?
Illegal. State law. You can't get a double cocktail anywhere. But this is what's so fucked up. And also, if you have a drink on the table and you order a second one, they often can't put it down until you're done with the other one. Crazy. But you can carry a fucking pistol on your hip legally in the state of open carry, but don't be trying to get a double. It doesn't make any sense. And no motorcycle helmet law either. It's just so odd. I guess it's the religious influence or something. I don't know, but
Guns fall into that religion. How? I'm just saying. Okay, now I grew up in a law enforcement family, so I am like pro-weapon, but I'm also pro-weapon education.
yes,
Right.
of course.
So Yeah, so I'm like, I don't really see how either things have anything to do with religion.
Yeah, well, maybe, but I don't know what else it could be, just.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, no, for sure.
Do you own a gun?
Not yet. I want to.
What, sidearm or?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
a baby one. I grew up, my dad used to take me shooting all the time growing up, you know, as a kid, I hated it. First of all, he raised me with like, this is not a toy. Be very afraid. Look, here's a video of someone playing with a gun and blowing your head off. Don't do that. Yes, basically.
Wow.
Well, he was very, very adamant that this is not a toy. And he wanted me to know
That's good.
the consequences of playing with a gun as a child.
Right.
Right? But he did used to take me out shooting. I hurt my arm. As a kid, I was tiny and I'm like, ow.
It was
So,
only 3.
5.
Oh.
And then like the kickback on their rifle really hurt my little shoulder, so I wasn't a fan. So I kind of do have an aversion to the larger guns because of that. With PTSD, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Reminded me of something else. I did an interview recently, and someone like yourself asked me questions I've never been asked, and that's hard to come up with. I've been doing this since '88, all the interviews and stuff, and the person asked me, "Have you ever stabbed anyone?"
Like, actually?
Yes, for real. And I said, yes. I was almost afraid to admit it, but when I was in high school, my buddy Steve, that always comes with me and sits at the table, I believe was there. We had a friend, I guess, named Sam, that we were at some kind of high school event, and somebody gave me a pen knife, just a small, very sharp knife, and in my hilarious way, I was threatening people with it. And I went over to Sam and I said, "Hey Sam, look at this." And he put his hand up to block me, and I stabbed him through the hand. I think he still talks about that. So I had to,
Sam forgive you for crucifixing him.
And then the next question was, have you ever shot anyone?
What the fuck? I like my questions better.
And it's a little bit of a stretch, but I had a buddy when I was in elementary school. Oh no, I lived out in the Marshall Islands, that's where I grew up, but we would go back to Reno, where I was first from as a child, and see family and stuff. My sister lived there and stuff. So we would go back every summer, and I would hang out with my buddy, whose name was Tracy Morgan, but not that one. And he was one of my best friends when I was like 12, 13, all through childhood also, but even then. And he lived in an area outside of Reno called Hidden Valley. And it was kind of in the foothills, and he had two .22 rifles, short ones. And we used to take them out and, hunt jackrabbits out in the hills and stuff. And we're up on the side of the hill, and we see a motorcycle coming up the canyon. And we realize it's somebody we know, another guy our age. And ironically, his dad was a police officer. But in my infinite wisdom, I thought of a competition. And I said, let's see who can shoot closest to him while he's riding his motorcycle up the canyon. And every time we would shoot, we could see the puff of dust come up. So we could tell who got closer and who didn't. And a couple times we got pretty close. And the next day, we ran into him. He didn't know who it was, and we didn't say it was us. And he goes, "Yeah, I was riding my motorcycle, yesterday up the canyon and somebody was shooting at me. And I was like, oh, really? Wow. And he says, and I don't think he was bullshitting because he didn't know it was us, but he said one of the bullets ricocheted off a rock, which we thought we saw, and it hit him in the helmet. Fortunately, he was wearing a helmet. I may have killed the guy. Didn't injure him, but is that technically shooting someone? Not really, I guess. It is?
Shot at him.
And I hit him.
Technically. Hey, thank goodness for helmets, right? Wear your helmets, kids.
Yeah, so.
It's turned into like a very messed up PSA.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm probably very fortunate I'm not incarcerated. We've all been there though, right? You've been in jail.
No, but I'm very glad that I wasn't.
He has.
Some of the things I did and didn't die.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know how that is.
I'm also very grateful, you know, we've all heard it, that cell phones and cameras were not around when I was younger. But it would be nice to piece together my teens. It would be nice to piece together my teens with the footage. So, yeah. Okay, we maybe have time for one more. You.
So we've had the privilege of watching Jason, Michael, Freddie. Who do you see carrying that torch moving forward? I know they continue with the remakes, but do you see anything new that you're like, you know what, that's a great idea, I'd like to see more of that?
I mean, I think the only one that may continue is Michael, just because of the current Halloween films and stuff. And we're going to hear about a more current true life serial killer that did horrible shit to people, and they're going to do a movie about it eventually. I have a couple of ideas for stuff like that, but I'm not supposed to talk about it yet. But you know, as much fun as it is to play a character that's all your own, I wouldn't mind playing someone again that actually did all the horrible things. Just because, you know, when playing BTK was pretty amazing. Oh, and that was another thing I found in my garage was my BTK glasses that I wore.
Nice.
I thought, I didn't even remember having those. But stay tuned.
Okay.
Something will come up, and you'll say, oh, that's what he was referring to.
Okay.
I do have one final wrap-up question for you. Is there something in the industry that you haven't done yet that you're just dying to? Either acting, stunt-wise?
What?
Rom-com.
Could we get
I've certainly never done that. Nobody wants to see that shit.
I mean, under certain circumstances, your role in Hatchet when you weren't in the makeup could be
Yes.
a rom-com.
I've never, I don't think, unless I'm spacing out on something, I don't think I've ever kissed someone on screen, have I? Anybody think of?
Insanely jealous, I don't think. Sure.
So that would be something,
Would
just
you be getting actor pay or stunt pay for that?
depends on the other person. I might pay for it myself, depending. But yeah, you know, and I always wanted to do an emotional scene because I thought I could pull that off, and so I was able to do it. And well, yes, and Hatchet too, yeah. But you know, I think any actor likes to do something they've never done, just for the challenge of it. And you know, it's I haven't done too much comedy, but that's also very fun to do. And you know, maybe I'll do a comedy where I kiss the girl. So it is a rom-com, isn't it? Yeah.
Your whole series was a comedy that you did with Michael.
With
So you had this series that you guys filmed
Oh, Mike Aloisi, yes.
It was fucking hilarious.
You know, I guess I could mention this. I'm going to see Mike. He lives in Massachusetts. And all of our Killer and I stuff, that's what you're referring to, we want to try it, doing little segments of that, just cutting them up into little TikTok. It's his idea, and I see so many people that are massively known just for TikTok.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna piece together little bits of it because I think it's hilarious.
It has some golden moments in that
Oh.
series. Like,
And he is such a perfect foil to me because, you know, he's not quite dangerous with dangerous shit. And I think that we're gonna try it. I'm going to his house. I'm doing a signing in Albany, a private signing. And so I'm gonna go up there from a convention in Louisiana and spend a few days just seeing if we can put together some stuff. Because, you know, The Killer and I think is fun as hell, just as a viewer, so.
You are very good at comedy as well. One of my favorites, if I may share before I let you go, is another thing that we also like to talk about on the podcast when we can find one in a movie, is dances of horror.
Dances?
Dances of horror. When there is a dance scene, no matter how goofy, you know where I'm going.
Or poorly done.
Not so much. In a horror film, we notated it, and that becomes a dance of horror. Anyone seen Among Friends? Yeah? Yeah. Kane has some skills.
I am not a dancer. I wish I was because it's a challenge, but I don't
It
know.
was a great dance of horror.
Because it's ridiculous.
It was lovely. It was lovely. A lot of the dances of horror are ridiculous, even when they're supposed to be serious.
Who did a good job, in your opinion?
Okay, so, and this is kind of a cop-out, but I mean, prom night, if you love your horror movies with 5-minute dance sequences, prom night is your jam. It's mine, you know. I love it. We like to maybe sometimes like in our head recreate the sequences, and that's something that we want to do eventually. I was a ballerina, so I'm like, I want to do Suspiria, even though I want to do that, even though it was fucking ridiculous. As an actual dancer, I'm like, never gonna happen. Like this, everything about that movie should be a tip off that ballet academy was on some shady shit. Okay, and so I went on a 10-minute rant about that on the show recently. But I want to do the Suspiria dance. So yeah, that's something we love to do, and we always notate a dance of horror, and just love yours. So
Take a look at it. It's pretty ridiculous.
it's pretty awesome. You will thank me later.
No, you won't. What the fuck was you recommending that for?
I think we all love it. Thank you very much, Kane. It's
Oh,
been a
thank you,
pleasure as
guys.
always.